Welcome to the Boomer Buzz, the show that focuses on issues of interest to the 60 and over crowd, both here on Long Island and across the country. Listen as experts keep you informed about the latest health solutions, financial options, and lifestyle choices, both for senior citizens and their families. Now, here are the hosts of the Boomer Buzz, Dr. Lamar Stanford and Patricia Stanford, corporate wellness consultant, on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Welcome to the Boomer Buzz, where each week we'll give you the buzz on how to stay healthy, wealthy, and wise over the age of 60.
Today our topic is financial planning for retirement and in retirement, and our guest expert is Richard Jack. He's the Chief Investment Strategist for Meadowbrook Wealth Management, LLC in Garden City. He's been a financial researcher and advisor for the last 25 plus years.
Welcome to the show, Richard.
Thank you.
I've heard that 1 in 3 Americans over the age of 65 has no retirement savings. What would you advise someone who's in their 60s with little or no retirement savings? Can they still do something?
Well, I think there's always time to do something. Saving is a lifelong process. So even at the age of 60, the average lifespan you have is another 25 years. So working part-time and still saving is always a big plus.
Okay. So we understand that 25% of retirees have enough in their retirement account to live comfortably through a normal lifespan. How do you know what is enough money to last through retirement? And what's the average lifespan of retirees?
Well, the average lifespan of retirees is increasing over the years. The average lifespan today is probably about 85 years old. So if people are retiring at 65, they have 20 to 27, 30 years of retirement. The best way I ask clients about their finances when they're retired is, if they're comfortable, is are your debts exceeding your income? Because that's really where you don't want to be when you're retired. So the best thing to do is seek a financial advisor who actually asks the important questions of your income, your savings, your debt, and are you comfortable? That's the biggest question.
Okay, so it sounds like everything is kind of customized to the individual.
You have to customize a retirement plan. There's no such thing as a one fit for everybody, a retirement plan. Everybody should have an advisor that looks at their individual situation.
Okay. There's a lot of controversy also about the best age to apply for Social Security. A lot of people will tell you to apply as soon as you're able to get anything, and some people will tell you that you need to go past your retirement age, maybe to 70. So I was wondering if there is a benefit to applying before full retirement age, or at retirement age, or later.
Again, another question that is very specific to the individual. If you're in good health, if you're still working, you would want to delay your retirement, your Social Security, because every tax dollar that you earn could offset your Social Security benefit, and your tax rate will go higher. If you are unhealthy, you would probably want to take your Social Security as soon as possible, because you're entitled to it. You can walk out of your door tomorrow and get hit by a bus and it's gone. I suggest to clients is take it as soon as possible, even if you're working part-time. If you're working full-time, you want to delay your Social Security probably to 65, 67 years old.
Okay.
You're listening to the Boomer Buzz on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Dr. Lamar Stanford, along with my wife, Patricia. And our guest today is Richard Jack, talking about financial planning for and in retirement. Now, Richard, we've heard a lot of advertisement on the TV recently about reverse mortgages. I've heard various opinions. They're kind of flim-flam. First of all, how do they work? Should a person in retirement seriously look at them?
Reverse mortgages, in my opinion, are a last-ditch effort for your retirement. there's always a cost to reverse mortgage. First, from what I know about reverse mortgages, we don't deal with them too much, is that you can only tap into, I think, 50% of the equity of your house. The problem with reverse mortgages is when you pass away, the bank or the lender is going to get their return of the loan when the house is sold. Second, there is an interest rate attached to a reverse mortgage. It's not free money, which there's a cost to it. And I think there's other ways that a good financial advisor will able to help you in retirement rather than putting your house into somebody else's hands. So,
gee, from your experience, you think it's not that good of an investment, really, or I guess it's not an investment, really. It
is actually really just it's a reverse loan, and there's an interest rate attached to it. I would only use it in last ditch effort. If you do not want to leave your home, you have no intention of ever selling your house, but it really is just a last ditch effort in retirement.
Yeah. What about mortgage on your house as a retiree? Should that be one of the first things you get rid of in your retirement planning, or should you defer that and maybe credit card debt, some of these other things that crop up?
Well, credit card debt is always the first debt that you should retire, because the credit card debt is 99.9% of the time it's going to be higher than anybody's mortgage, especially if you refinanced in the past 10 years. We have the lowest interest rates in history. Credit card debt is always the first to go, no matter what age you are. In terms of paying off your house, it depends again on your interest rate and the dollar amount of your outstanding loan. But it is not something that I really feel is the first thing to pay off. I would rather pay off credit card debt, even a car loan. I would rather pay off before I would pay off my house.
Okay, so is there any other thing you could suggest that, because like we talked about, only 1 out of 3 Americans have sufficient savings, adequate savings for retirement. Anything else that you could suggest that maybe they could look at to better their position for retirement? So we look at credit card debt, automobile financing.
The two most important things when you're at the age of retirement or getting close to retirement, one is I would take a look at long-term care, because the long-term care is very expensive on Long Island in terms of assisted living or nursing home. The average cost of a nursing home in Nassau County is somewhere around $13,000 a month.
Wow.
Which is just an extraordinary large amount. So, a person who has a long-term care policy to buffer that, I think would be a great idea.
Now, is that a product that your company would sell? Would be this long-term care?
No, we don't. At Meadowbrook Wealth, we don't do any insurance policies or long-term care policies, but we do refer people to a number of other insurance people, insurance firms that will guide you into the right long-term care policy.
Maybe we could just pursue that a little bit. The long-term care, that assumes that the person that's under care is totally immobilized. They have to have 24-hour service, that type of thing?
Not totally immobilized. This could be somebody who is, an example is a widower or a widow who cannot do 3 of the 5 daily functions of life, which is bathing, showering, and toiletry could be 3 that you really need help with. That's when a long-term care policy would kick in. And, when you can't do those 3, at least 3 of those daily life activities, it makes life very hard. And there's only really 2 or 3 choices you have. You could have in-home care, you could try assisted living, or the worst case scenario is nursing home care. And you're talking about the cost of a nursing home or assisted living is $270 to $350 a day.
Well, it's just like living in a hotel then.
It's more expensive than a hotel.
That's true, yeah. So, basically, when is the best time to get one of those policies if you're thinking about it?
Generally, it depends on your health. It depends on your financial situation, but I would seriously consider if I was between the ages of, say, 58 and 64, I'd say in that area.
Mm-hmm. is that contingent upon your medical health? In other words, you'd have to go through
They do give you a general a medical examination.
Okay.
I mean, granted, if you had some serious ailment, the chances of qualifying for such a policy might be difficult, and that's why you don't wait till you're 70, 75 to look for a long-term care policy. You want to find the right one when you're approaching retirement in your late 50s, early 60s is probably the best time to start researching that.
Now, how would you say you're thinking of purchasing one of these, how do you know the insurance company will be in business when you need it, say 15 or 20 years later? Is it regulated like regular insurance is and guaranteed?
Most of the companies that offer long-term care policies, they are covered by the state of New York. There are ratings on many of these companies. They're A-rated, AAA rated, AA rated, but most of these are insured by the state of New York. Very, very few policies, if any, have ever not paid due to bankruptcy or default. They're generally very sturdy policies.
Now, when you get a policy, do you get to pick the facility that you want to go to, or do they have a specified thing? If you have to enact the benefits, you have to go to a certain area?
No, you would pick the facility. You pick where you want to live. It's whether you qualify for those 3 out of 7 daily life activities. I believe it's 3 out of 7 daily life activities, but there's no restriction on where you want to go. Some policies will restrict assisted living because there's a difference between assisted living and nursing home. But generally, 75% of these policies will pay for assisted living or a portion of your assisted living cost.
But the nursing home is the place where you have to have the most care. Is that correct?
A nursing home is the most care. That is the one place where you're going to get medical care, medical assistance with your medicines. That is the last resort, and that's why it costs. The cost there about $13,500 a month on Long Island. Right. But again, when you are looking at a nursing home. We can go off for another hour and talk about Medicaid, but generally when you're looking at a nursing home, you should be thinking about Medicaid planning more than just a long-term care policy.
Okay, so that's something maybe your partner Tom could talk to us about in the future.
Yeah, that's a really important piece of the puzzle is Medicaid planning, and a long-term care policy is part of Medicaid planning.
Okay, this is a great time to take a break. I'm Patricia Stanford, corporate wellness consultant, along with my husband, Dr. Lamar Stanford, and our guest today is Richard Jack, talking about financial planning for and in retirement. You're listening to the Boomer Buzz on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC, and find WHPC online at nccradio.org.
She's kind of a big deal. Some people like to say it's only because of how she looks. She sticks her tongue out a lot. But there's just something about her that makes people do crazy things, like get tattoos of her face, or wait in line for hours just to say hi. Lil Bub is a 2-year-old cat, an Instagram celebrity with a following bigger than some 90s television stars. And it all started because she was adopted. You can't buy a best friend like Lil Bub, but you can adopt one. Help us save them all at bestfriends.org.
When you went car shopping, you meant business. You aced vehicle history searches and test drives. Now you've got your wheels. If you manage that, you can get your retirement plan on track. Visiting aceyourretirement.org can help. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Boomer Buzz on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Dr. Lamar Stanford, and
I'm Patricia Stanford.
And our guest today is Richard Jack, talking about financial planning for and in retirement.
Okay, Richard. Long Island is a rather expensive place for retirees. Do you suggest to some of your clients that they move out of the area? And if so, do you know where some of the places that would be better from a financial point of view to move to?
Well, we're seeing this more and more, and it's in the news every day about Nassau County and Long Island. The biggest cost for many retirees in Nassau County, even Suffolk County, is your real estate taxes. Real estate taxes rarely go down. It's the one expense that continues to rise and increase at almost astronomical levels. If a client came to me and they suggested, they're looking to move, of course, there are certain states that are very tax-friendly, such as Florida, which has no state income tax. South Carolina, I believe, is a 4% state income tax. And the real estate taxes are much less costly in those areas.
Okay. If someone needs to stay in New York for family reasons or health reasons, should they think about downsizing? So maybe going from a house to a condominium or an apartment.
Of course, we see this all the time with some of our clients and some of the people that we speak with. The main cost of a house, especially one that is 3, 4, 5 bedrooms, is the maintenance of the house. You have to consider every little cost, such as heating, electric, even cutting the lawn. I mean, these costs add up. So there are a number of great areas here on Long Island that have senior housing, which are a lot less costly to maintain than your regular 4 or 5 bedroom house that you lived in for 30, 35 years.
Okay. So what are some of the other ways that you suggest to people that they can save money in retirement?
In terms of saving money in retirement, it's literally not just an investment question. It's where can you cut costs? Because if you cut a cost, that is an actual savings.
True.
We spoke about this before. Is credit card debt. If somebody has a credit card and there's a 15% interest rate on that, that becomes very costly. So I usually tell my clients is I can make you 15% a year easily. I could just tell you to pay off your credit card debt. That is a very costly expense for people who are in retirement. Second is I always say always want to be invested in the stock market at some point. You always want to have something there because the stock market over a number of years, 8, 10, 15 years, is probably going to give you the best returns than any other investment vehicle.
Okay. And what do you think about Social Security as far as the future of Social Security? Is that something that we should be counting on? Because some people think it's a Ponzi scheme that will collapse.
I don't really foresee ever Social Security collapsing.
Okay.
The people worry about this every day, and if Social Security ever did collapse, every politician that's in Washington would lose their job. And in Washington, it's all about votes. Social Security is exactly the one word that people don't look at in Social Security. It's security. It's not social income. It's not a paycheck. It's security. So when you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, even 50s, you have to remember that Social Security is a security blanket. It's not an investment. It's not something you should rely on 100%. But in terms of whether Social Security will be here 10 to 15 years from now, I wholeheartedly believe that it will be here in some form, whether the government starts to invest in the stock market, if they get a little more aggressive, or in the worst case scenarios, they start lowering benefits for people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s.
Okay. Well, that's comforting to hear.
Now, if the politicians do something about Social Security, there's talk that they're going to cut this back, that it's going to go broke in 10 years. You think that's kind of a joke, or is it serious?
I don't feel personally that Social Security will ever go broke. The lifespan for people, the problem is that the lifespan for retirees is longer. But on the other hand, to balance that off is that there are people still being born, and a lot of people being born. And these people will eventually, at some point when they turn 18, start paying into Social Security. So they will pay more to keep Social Security afloat, but retirees may get cut in some shape and form. Now, a cut doesn't necessarily mean your Social Security is going to go down or away. It just means it may not increase over the years.
Okay, so that's interesting, yeah. That it won't be cut, but it will not get the increase like for inflation.
Right.
Or stuff like that.
You if you notice that people love to see 4 or 5% increases in pay, but Social Security, the increases are 1%, 1.5%, 2%. So you might start seeing a 0.5% increase. You might see just 1% increases in Social Security. That way, politicians keep their jobs that they want to do, and their Social Security will still stay intact.
Now, that's something interesting. I thought somehow the government, maybe this is my wrong impression, that they had an investment vehicle that they used for Social Security, but it is simply on the deductions of current wage earners?
Well, the current wage earners do pay into Social Security. So, a lot of people say it's a Ponzi scheme. In a certain sense, there is a little bit of a Ponzi scheme to it, because you're taking a dollar from one person and putting it into a hand of another person. And that's why it's called social. That's a social program. But they do invest in certain portions of Social Security that is taken from the younger generation, but it's generally in low volatile vehicles such as treasuries.
Okay, so it wouldn't be in the stock market.
No, the stock market, that is the hotbed in Washington, is that to save Social Security that you would put into the stock market, but conservatives say that if the stock market drops 40%, it's going to wipe out Social Security. I think in the future, it may not be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. At some point, you will see stocks be a portion of the current Social Security bank.
Okay, good. You're listening to the Boomer Buzz on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC, and our guest today is Richard Jack, talking about financial planning for and in retirement. Now, Richard, maybe we can continue, Don. Just say a retired couple is relying on a company pension plan. How can they be sure that the plan will be there for them in the long run?
That's a really great question, because I ran into this problem, 25, 30 years ago with my own father. My own father worked for a company that went bankrupt, and your first thought is your pension going to go away totally? It won't. In most cases, it won't. There's something called the Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation that will take over the pension fund that your company has. Now, that doesn't mean your pension is going to stay intact 100%. A lot of times you'll see that if you were entitled to an $1,800, $2,000 a month pension, it might get adjusted down to $800. But most pensions are guaranteed to a certain point, especially during bankruptcy, by the Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation.
Is that a federal
I believe,
agency?
I'm not as familiar with it as I used to be, but I believe it's a federal, they are a quasi-federal agency.
Okay. Now, the term vested gets kicked around. Some people say, well, listen, you'll only be vested after you've been with the company for 5 years or something like that. Maybe you can explain that to some of these people.
Right. Vesting is really just like a carrot for an employee. A lot of companies will set aside money for your retirement, for your 401k, or for your pension, only if you stay for at least 5 years. That way they have an employee for 5 years that's willing to learn and grow with the company, and you have something at the end of the 5 years to look forward to. So generally you won't be vested in any 401k contributions that your company makes, not what you make, but what the company makes, for at least 5 years.
Okay, that brings up another question. What's the difference between a pension guaranteed benefit and a 401k benefit?
A guaranteed pension plan is what you usually see with municipalities, such as teachers, police officers, firemen. These pensions are paid into by 90% of the cost is funded by the organization. So it's the New York City Department of Ed, or your school district, or the Nassau County Police Department. They have a guaranteed benefit at the end of their career. A 401k is something that you contribute to throughout the years. Now, some people do have a pension, and they also have either a 401k or a 403b that they contribute to. That money that you contribute is always vested, and it's yours at any time after retirement, in terms of as income. taxable income. But prior to that, you can take it with you. You can roll it over to an IRA if you leave your job.
Okay, so the pension plan, say your employer has a certain amount of money that they're going to give to you. Can they say, listen, we're just going to put that money into a pension plan, or can they say, we're going to give it to you to put into we'll match whatever you put into your 401k? I'm a little unfamiliar with that.
Most pensions today, they're not given by private companies. Most private companies today, it's 401ks. So a lot of companies, as a benefit, they will match up to, say, 6% of your contributions for the year. Municipalities, union workers, those are the ones that have pensions, and they've had pensions for the past 70 years. That is a benefit that you don't see in private organizations. Mostly these are government jobs, state and local jobs, and municipality jobs.
So you're telling me that a person better get familiar on how to direct their own retirement fund rather than wait on a pension unless they're in one of those agencies you talked about.
If you don't work for a government agency or a school district, the listeners will know whether they're entitled to a pension, because it's one of the most important things when you decide to take a job such as a fireman or a policeman or a teacher.
Yeah.
If you do not have a pension, you have to strongly consider a 401k, and that's the best investment vehicle for somebody who does not have a pension.
Now, you mentioned IRA. How about a Roth IRA? I've heard a lot about that. Is that one of the best benefits we can use?
Roth is a very good investment vehicle. Now, it depends on your tax situation when you're contributing, because when you contribute to a Roth IRA, it is not a tax-deductible investment. On the other hand, it is not taxable income upon retirement.
And that's the benefit, I guess.
That's the benefit, is that, your 401k will get taxed at your nominal income rate, whereas a Roth IRA, anything you withdraw after retirement is tax-free.
Right, okay.
Well, we've learned a lot today, and we want to thank our guest, Richard Jack with Meadowbrook Wealth Management, LLC, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
I'm Lamar Stanford, along with my wife, Patricia Stanford. Just a word as we close our program. The worst nightmare in retirement is outliving your financial resources, so plan wisely. This show will be available as a podcast on iTunes, Android Podcasts, Spotify, and Spreaker.com. If you have any comments, email them to us at whpc@ncc.edu. Thank you for listening to the Boomer Buzz here on the voice of NASA Community College, 90.3 WHPC.